Alright, hello there. Yes, unlike some of my other reviews where you can actually see me, this one you're only going to hear a voiceover. Fun story, basically, I wanted to do the filming yesterday, but unfortunately I didn't have time to, so instead I'm doing it now, and it's in a really awkward position because I'm quite literally got my face right up into the camera, speaking to you from beyond, in a very cramped environment. So you're pretty much going to just have to listen to my voice while looking at the same picture over and over again. Well, just the same picture actually. So you're just going to have to listen to this voiceover. And in this case, I'm talking about Solo, the Star Wars story. I actually saw this a few days ago, in fact. I must also mind that I do have hay fever, so I might be a little bit sniffly. I might even sneeze at some point. But, yes, you know the picture. This is a very amateur little review. Me talking about, basically what my thoughts are on our latest releases, etc. And Solo, Star Wars story is, of course, the biggest release. The one which I've been wanting to do a review for since Friday when I watched it. As of now, it's actually Tuesday. So, you know, it's a little bit late, I know, because everyone else has sent their reviews off, etc. So what did I think of Solo, a Star Wars story? The first Star Wars film to be a financial flop. Although a financial flop in the sense that it didn't make 130 million, it only made 103 million. So there's that. Although it's bound to get the money back eventually, I think, I hope. So overall, my impression of it was I liked it, although I don't think it was brilliant, if you know what I mean. It's one of those middle of the road movies. Funnily enough, sorry about that, I'm just checking it's recording. Funnily enough, my thoughts on this film, when watching it, were pretty much the same thoughts that I had when I watched The Phantom Menace for the first time. I.e., there's a lot of bad moments in it, but there are some good moments, and there are 3 amazing moments in the film. My favourite scenes, obviously, and in The Phantom Menace, my favourite scenes were the beginning scene, when they're on the Trade Federation ship, about to negotiate, and of course it doesn't go according to plan. The middle scene, which is the pod racer, I really love that scene, and of course Darth Maul's fight. It's a similar case with Solo. There's 3 great scenes, there's a lot of bad moments in it, and then there's some good moments here and there. At the beginning, you have this awesome trench warfare moment where Han Solo is, of course, part of the Imperial Army. They're at war with this planet because they want their mining resources. And I really like this scene. It's really gritty. It's just amazing. I like seeing some of these Imperial wars against some of these planets on the big screen. You know, you don't actually see a lot of that. You just get a few rebel insurgencies like battling here and then and they disappear. It's not a full-grown battle like what we see at the beginning of Solo. In the middle, you have obviously the Kessel Run, which is just amazing. I love the Kessel Run. And the end scene, which, of course, if you know anything about my other reviews, you'll know that I like to spoil things, and I do spoil things heavily, hence why the title will say major spoilers. But at the end, a character who ironically comes from The Phantom Menace appears at the end, and it made me happy. It really did. So let's talk about, in general, Solo. So Han Solo, he's from a planet. He lives in the slums. Essentially, he works for this centipede-like, worm-like creature. He's afraid of sunlight because sunlight burns, I believe or not. And he and Kira, his girlfriend at the time, decided they're going to run off and they're going to live out there in a big wild space, you know, live happily ever after. And of course, when they do so, Kira gets taken away, but Han eventually enrolls for the Imperial Army. At this moment, there is this one scene which really fucking pissed me off. This annoyed me because of how pointless and how stupid and forced it was. It was the Imperial officer. He's asking, "What's your name?" And he says Han, and he's of course then asked for a surname. Of course he doesn't have a surname, and then he says, "All right, Solo then." Why? I really fucking hated that. Why can't it just be Han Solo from the beginning? Like, there's no point to it other than, oh, get it, it's Han Solo, guys. This is how he got his name. This is how he's gonna meet Chewbacca. This is how he is. When I mention this is very much like the Phantom Menace, it is very much like the Phantom Menace, because the Phantom Menace did the exact same thing. It was always shoehorning in all these moments, like all these characters say, "Oh, this is how this character came to be. This is how this character came to be. Oh, look, it's this character." And you know, Darth Vader built C-3PO, for example. It's just pointless. Why can't they just be their own characters? You know, why do we have to? You know, give a background to his surname? You know, it's just stupid in my opinion. But of course, it does follow up with the great mud trench warfare, sort of like World War One, in fact, with the Imperials against this mining planet. This is where Han meets some smugglers. Of course, smugglers are dressed up in Imperial costume, hiding the fact that they are smugglers, so they can go off and do this job for Dryden Voss. Of course, Han is betrayed by the smugglers, and he gets chucked into a pit with Chewbacca. This also kind of annoyed me, because as someone who's read the other canon novel, supposedly Han saved Chewbacca from prison, and of course, eventually he was given a life death. But here, Chewbacca, he's thrown into a prison with Chewbacca, and Chewbacca is trying to kill him. And Chewbacca pretty much saves Han as opposed to Han saving Chewbacca. So why couldn't they just have Han remain an Imperial, and then he sees Chewbacca in a prison cell? You know, it's sort of like in Legends, where he saw and he felt bad for the Wookiee, so he decides, you know what, we're gonna escape together, you and me. You know, they sort of tried to do that here, but it's just the way they did it I didn't like, personally. I'm going to say this right now, I've never hated a Star Wars film. I've never disliked a Star Wars film. However, I will say this, Solo is probably the weakest Star Wars film I think I've seen. It was originally Attack of the Clones, but I felt like this is a little bit more weaker. But I don't hate it. I still do enjoy it, you know, just like the prequels. I may have extreme problems with them, but I still like them. So that's my stomach. Oh, I'm hungry. What was I going to say? Oh yeah, so he eventually escapes with Chewbacca with the smugglers, and of course smugglers think, oh, you know, I quite like this kid. Even though we just try to kill him, we're gonna use him for this job. So then you have this train heist sequence. The train heist sequence, admittedly, is a cool scene. However, you get an introduction to two characters. These two characters, you know, you get a little bit of background to them. And if you get attached to any characters, like you did with Rogue One, you're not gonna really miss them when they get... If you didn't get attached to them, I should say, you're not gonna miss them when they get killed. Because the black lady who is in love with Becca, I think it's Becca, I don't really remember. I probably got that name wrong. Tobias, I'm just gonna... Tobias. I'm just gonna use his first name. Tobias, who is a girlfriend to Tobias, she gets killed. As does Rocket Raccoon, I mean the four-armed monkey alien, who is extremely annoying and is essentially Rocket Raccoon. He even sounds like Rocket Raccoon in every sense of the word. In fact, he's even a pilot. He's a cocky little pilot who, you know, makes jokes up all the time, and of course he doesn't last long, he gets shot to pieces. Because during the train heist they get intercepted by Enfys Nest, which are a bunch of pirates, a bunch of arseholes, to say the very least. They have really cool looking masks, I should say. So during this interception they lose all the coaxium, I believe it's called, which is this really expensive fuel which all the smugglers want, all the criminal underworld want, and of course Crimson Dawn wants it. But of course they lose it. Dryden Voss isn't very happy, but they come up with an idea. How about we go to Kessel? We go to the spice mines in Kessel, we steal a bunch of coaxium, and we give it to you, just like that. And this is something that I also really like. I loved all the background Easter eggs in Dryden Voss's room. For those that don't know, if you've ever read Legends, or you know about Legends, there's this crystal skull, ironic considering Harrison Ford, there's this crystal skull that appeared in the Legends novel. That appears, so that's officially canon. There's also red Mandalorian armor, which I honestly thought was more based around, Darth Maul's, sorry, I thought the recording stopped there. I'm so paranoid that it's going to stop. So, Darth Maul's army, because he had red Mandalorian armor for his army. But then, of course, I was told that it's actually ancient armor, so then it dawned on me, hey, it could be Revan, even has sort of a similar look to Revan's mask. But I like that. There's also all these. There's a Sith holocron as well. There's also other little bits and bobs which I never really caught, but I found out elsewhere. So you go so they go onto the Kessel Run, of course. But of course, before that, they go to Kessel. But before that, they also meet Lando Calrissian. Lando is fucking fantastic. I love the actor for Lando. He's brilliant. He really does a good job. Which can be said about some of the other characters. For example, I really did not give two shits about Kira, who, by the way, Kira now works for Dryden Voss, and Han Solo just so happens to bump into her. Speaking of Han Solo, I'm mixed about the actor, to be fair. I mean, some moments he really does a good performance, and then most moments he's got this really high-pitched voice. Whoa! That sort of dialect in a sense, and he doesn't sound like Han. He's got this, smirky little face like Han, and he got the looks. He just doesn't sound like Han, if you know what I mean. Once again, I'm so sorry for the clickety-clackety. I am trying my best to keep it recording while I'm talking. I would do this with me speaking in front of the camera, but unfortunately I'm in a tight spot, so you're just going to have to look at a picture. I do repeat. So yeah, Lando's a great choice. Kira, not so much. Han Solo, mixed. Tobias was enjoyable as well. Don't know what that loud bang was. Tobias was also a very good actor, I must say. But then we get introduced to probably the worst character in the entire movie, who thankfully doesn't last very long, although lasts longer than the four-armed monkey Rocket Raccoon rip-off. This character is called L337. I fucking hated this robot. Or this droid, I should say. The idea of droids, getting really upset because they're being oppressed and they're being treated like slaves, this is a fine idea. Just not in... They just didn't do it. They didn't execute it right. I really hated L3. She was so fucking annoying. And, I don't mind sassy droids. You had that sassy droid K2 in Rogue One. And he was enjoyable. You had C-3PO, who was also enjoyable. IG-88, even though you don't actually see him speak in canon, but in Legends he did speak and he was pretty fucking cool. Here, though, no, she's just so annoying. Thankfully, she has one of the most brutal deaths, I should say. I'm so hungry. Stomach is rumbling like mad. I should have eaten something. On a tangent again. I digest. I digress, I should say. So yeah, L3 fucking annoyed me, and honestly, when she got killed, and she got killed in a very brutal manner, she gets blown to pieces and then split in half, and her guts are practically hanging out. Well, wires. And she's like spazzing out like that. Honestly, I did not feel sad. I was actually really happy she got killed because, oh god, she was annoying. She even had this little conversation with Kira about relationships and how she thinks Lando fancies her, and it's just, I hated L3. She fucking sucked. And to be fair, even people who've given this film positive reviews, because the last time I checked, it got mixed reviews. Like half the population likes it, half the population doesn't. You know, it's not like Last Jedi where the critics all loved it and the audience were the ones that were mixed. In this case, the critics are mixed and it's the audience who love it. So, but yeah, L3, she was such a pointless and annoying character. Like, really pointless, to the point that she actually did not serve a single purpose in this entire film. You could have cut her out completely and you would not miss a single thing. And there are people out there who are defending L3, and I say, why? Why defend that annoying piece of shit droid? That said, on Kessel you do meet the Pikes, Clone Wars characters. And I love seeing things from like the cartoons appear in live action, because you saw Chopper and you saw the Ghost in Rogue One, and that was cool. But seeing the Pike was pretty cool. He was a cool looking Pike as well. You wouldn't say that about real life Pikes, if you know what I mean. Jeez. So yeah, I love seeing the Pike. Unfortunately, the Pike doesn't last very long. He gets stabbed in the neck, and you can even gurgle, which is grotesque. I will say this film does go dark, and I will also say this, unlike The Last Jedi, where the humour fucking sucked in that movie, this film actually has good humour. Not all the time, but has better humour, I will say. Yeah, so the Pike gets stabbed. They then do the Kessel Run, where you see a massive Star Destroyer about to put a blockade, and you have all these TIE fighters, and then all of a sudden you have this giant worm-like creature, this octopus-like worm creature. It fucking melts. Its skin peels off, its flesh is ripping away, and then it turns into a skeleton, and it's dragged into this black hole, and then they do a jump to hyperspace back to, well, they go to this like deserty planet, and in this deserty planet they meet Enfys Nest again. Enfys Nest, of course, reveal that they're not the bad guys. We're just trying to take back what's ours. And in Enfys Nest, there's a certain little character. If you've ever seen Phantom Menace, once again, like the Phantom Menace, it should have been called Solo, a Phantom Menace story. In like the Phantom Menace, you see Weasel, a background character that was played by Warwick Davis during the pod racing event, and you actually see him essentially as one of the Enfys Nest members, which I thought was kind of cool, seeing that they've brought this background character back again, and he's survived and he's got a little bit of a story. I like that. You know, I will admit, something that George Lucas said when he was making Attack of Clones, there was a behind the scenes featurette where he said, with all these background characters such as Kit Fisto, they've all got these interesting backgrounds which you'll probably never explore, but the audience themselves can often imagine it. And I do like that sort of behaviour, that sort of idea that George Lucas had, where all these background characters have a story. You don't know what their story is, but you can make it up on the spot, or you can guess by, you know, simply observing them. That's something else that I really liked about this movie. They actually made a lot of references to other characters, such as Bossk. That was cool. A little name drop for Bossk and the sisters that appear in the cantina. And not only that, we actually find out what the hell happened to Aurora Singh after the Clone Wars. It turns out she got pushed to her death. Tobias killed her. Which, I like that. I like those little name drops, those little like hints of what the hell happened to certain characters. And I'm glad that we find out a conclusion to some of the characters, such as Aurora Singh. Because, you know, we never really found out what that happened to her. So yeah, that's cool. We do get a little hint to Jabba the Hutt as well. That's another thing which I will admit. I do enjoy the fact that the Empire weren't the main villains. They were just this, you know, this element of threat which existed, and they had control over everything, and they were always around, but they weren't the main villains. The main villains were Crimson Dawn. Speaking of which, while on this deserty planet, they hatch a plan to try and help Enfys Nest to give away the coaxium so no one gets it, or at least they get it, and Crimson Dawn don't get it. It's a really confusing plan, I will say. It's not fully explained properly, and I probably wasn't in the cinema when I was at this point, because I sort of drifted in and out sometimes for toilet breaks. Well, I only did it twice, to be fair. So, yeah, I probably missed this bit, but supposedly they were going to... Han was going to give the coaxium to Dryden Voss. Dryden Voss was going to be all happy that he's got it, but the truth is it was actually Enfys Nest that had the coaxium, and they were going to hide it so no one ever has it. Of course, it turns out Tobias knew about this plan and was betrayed Han by telling Dryden Voss that the coaxium has been given to Enfys Nest. But then it turns out the coaxium is already with isn't with Enfys Nest. It's actually with Dryden Voss all this time, and Han has tricked them both. It's a little bit confusing, I will admit, but you do. It's one of those things that you sort of need to visually see to understand. Or watch, I should say, to understand, because me explaining it is pretty bad, I will admit. So, Kira, of course, is there as well, and Dryden knows that Kira's weakest spot is, of course, Han Solo. Of course, Han and Chewie... Oh, well, Chewie helps Tobias smuggle the coaxium away, because Tobias thinks, you know, if I have all this coaxium, I'll be rich, and so I don't need any of you. So Dryden Voss and Han and Tobias have this sort of Mexican standoff. They've got guns pointed at each other, and then, of course, he goes away with Chewbacca while Han, Kira, and Dryden Voss fight each other. Dryden Voss then gets stabbed by Kira, and Han decides to chase after Chewie and Tobias to basically kill Tobias, and he does so. He does a really quick shot. Meanwhile, Kira stays behind, and this scene is why I fucking loved. This scene made me happy, because I really loved the scene. As I mentioned earlier, I like three big moments in this film. The beginning, middle, and end. And I don't mean it like it's the whole film. I mean there's a scene at the beginning, a scene at the middle, and a scene at the end. This scene, Kira takes off the ring and Dryden Voss, and there comes a hologram. There's this hooded figure, and the hooded figure unveils himself, and he speaks like this. And of course, he reveals himself, and it's an older Darth Maul, and you can even see his mechanical legs from Clone Wars and Rebels. And he pulls out his lightsaber, which, to be fair, the lightsaber was extremely pointless to pull out. But hey, it's cool to see the Rebels' lightsaber in action. And he says that we're going to be working a lot more closer, Kira. Return to me to Dathomir. And it's only for like a minute, but that made me giddy. Because ever since I saw The Phantom Menace, there's one moment which I absolutely loved over everything else. Darth Maul. Darth Maul has always been a fan favourite of mine. I loved this character. And then when I was watching Clone Wars back when it was on, I remember, you know, on the website, I believe, I think it was the Star Wars website at the time, they had like a featurette saying, guess who's returning? And of course it turns out to be Savage Opress, but in one episode they then show that your brother is still alive, and there's Darth Maul there, and it's, oh, Darth Maul's coming back, and then you see him, he's insane and mangled, and then the Clone Wars Darth Maul was badass. Like, he took over all the criminal syndicates, which is something that I really like, because in Solo, I should say, is the fact that he's controlling this other criminal syndicate, just like he was in Clone Wars. It connects really easily. And so he takes over these criminal syndicates, he takes over an entire planet, and then there's this badass fight against Obi-Wan on multiple occasions. He kills Obi-Wan's love interest, I forgot her name, Duchess Sabine, I think it is, I can't remember. He kills her, and then he fights Darth Sidious. Darth Sidious kills Savage Opress, and then of course if you read the comics, he of course survives, but his mother Talzin, gets stabbed by Grievous. As Darth Maul, between the comic and no, actually not comic, it's actually Ahsoka that technically comes after it. In Ahsoka it's revealed Darth Maul had a fight with Ahsoka, but then Order 66 came and Darth Maul got away, and Ahsoka also survived along with Captain Rex. And then for whatever reason you don't have have much information, but of course, thanks to Solo, you do. You have information. You find out that between Rebels and Ahsoka, the novel Ahsoka, Darth Maul has actually been controlling this criminal syndicate. And then somehow he loses it because he's on Malachor in Rebels, and once again, a badass still. Which does beg the question, what the hell is Darth Maul doing between those events? I really am curious. So, that's one good thing that Solo probably did. It makes you curious on what's happening between events. What happened to Darth Maul? What was Darth Maul doing controlling Crimson Dawn? Because Darth Maul is awesome. I love Darth Maul. I always have, ever since I was a kid. I even had a costume of Darth Maul with this rubbery mask, which kind of was hard to look through. But still, he was just an awesome character, and I always loved Darth Maul. Even, his short fight against Obi-Wan in Rebels is brilliant. Even though I expected this big, long, drawn-out fight, it was just short but sweet and on the point, because all the aggression was at the beginning and all the little hints you have to observe. I'm going on a tangent about Darth Maul, aren't I? Because Darth Maul rocked. So overall, actually no, that's something else I wanted to talk about. Oh no, it is still recording. I just had to remove the camera because it wasn't doing anything, and I was concerned that it stopped recording. So sorry if there was that awkward pause. What was I talking about? Oh yeah, Darth Maul. Speaking of Darth Maul, there is one thing which does bring out a big problem in Solo, and that is, if you haven't seen Rebels, if you haven't seen the Clone Wars, if you haven't read the comics or the books, then you might get a bit confused about some scenes, because they'll mention or they'll have certain things which you won't know a clue about, and then you'll have to do your research on your own. For example, the everyday viewer probably might get confused with the fact that Darth Maul is alive. For example, an everyday viewer probably seen The Phantom Menace, but never read or seen Clone Wars or Rebels, so they wouldn't know that Darth Maul survived, if you know what I mean. So they all get confused over that. So I will admit, that does make some confusion for everyday viewers, because they won't know what the fuck is going on. But yeah, overall, I liked it. That said, I do think it's one of the weakest Star Wars films. Right there with Attack of the Clones and The Phantom Menace. In fact, like I said, this is very much like The Phantom Menace. It's a certain middle of the road. I understand the criticism this time. Unlike Last Jedi, where it was mostly bitching and moaning because, oh dear, this happened, and oh dear, I didn't like this, so therefore it's ruined, it's dead forever. This, I understand. It's a little bit more logical, the criticisms. Overall, I do enjoy the film, but I can understand why some people might give it a pass. It's not... It doesn't actually have a purpose. I don't know why Disney is so obsessed with trying to force out a Star Wars movie every fucking year. I know that some Star Wars fans always wanted that, and it's a wet dream, but it's... At the same time, it's like... It's not really needed. Give it a break a bit, This is certainly the most pointless of the Star Wars films, because we didn't really need it. It could have been done in a book, In fact, it has been sort of done in the book, in flashbacks in Aftermath, for example. Yeah, I didn't see much point in this movie technically, but at the same time, I'm glad I went to see it. It was still enjoyable. I can understand why fans are liking this movie over Last Jedi. Of course, personally, I think The Last Jedi was better than this. But yeah, it's certainly a middle of the road sort of movie if you're gonna watch it. If you don't know how Darth Maul survived, I recommend watching Clone Wars or reading the books or even watching Rebels. Yeah. Bye.